invite our next speaker. We want to thank Mr. John Vandrell, who is with the California Department of Real Estate. John, thank you for coming and accepting our invitation to come and speak before the panel. And as you well know, not only the commissioners here, but you will also be able to address the audience here in Vacaville. So we appreciate your comments on tips on what seniors can take so that they don't get scammed from real estate. Maybe loan modification and some reverse mortgage tips for us. Thank you.
Thank you, Madam Chairperson, and the commissioners for inviting me here to talk about this important epidemic that's taking place in California.
It's kind of hard to hear you. Can you maybe move the mic a little closer?
How's that better?
Yes.
Okay. Can you hear me now? All right, thank you. Before I get into the information I'd like to share with you about real estate fraud, I'd like for you to know a little bit first about the Department of Real Estate. Amazingly, to me, very few people know anything about the Department of Real Estate. The primary reason for the Department of Real Estate's existence is to protect the public in real estate transactions in California. The department has approximately 500,000 licensees in California and has a staff of about 330 people statewide. That staff includes 9 attorneys each in Los Angeles and Sacramento, and about 60 investigators and auditors located in our Sacramento, Oakland, Fresno, Los Angeles, and San Diego offices. Our role has historically been to investigate violations of the real estate law and then revoke or suspend a dishonest or negligent real estate licensee's license. The licensees are real estate brokers and salespeople. We also deal with developers of subdivisions. So, for instance, if you were to go buy an interest in a subdivision, a new home in a subdivision, you should be and must be by law given what's called a public report, which is a detailed disclosure of all sorts of important things that have to do with the subdivision, like, for instance, are the roads paid for, are the common areas all going to be taken care of, and things like that. So you'd never want to buy a home in a subdivision without looking at the public report first. And every subdivision interest that's sold in California has to come through our office to have a public report. Now, even though our role is to investigate violations of the real estate law, where we come into the picture typically is only after the damage has been done. By the time we show up, the horse is out of the barn, the money's already gone, and the most we can eventually do is to take away someone's license, or in the case of people who are unlicensed who are doing things that require a license, we can tell them to stop doing it, stop lying and cheating and stealing. Then the situation, if you've seen The Treasure of the Sierra Madre with Humphrey Bogart, you know the answer to that, which is we don't need no stinking badges to steal, and that's the truth. Our efforts to protect the public in real estate transactions resulted in disciplinary action. That means a revocation, a suspension, or a voluntary surrender. For the 07-08 fiscal year, in 709 cases. In the 08-09 fiscal year, that number popped up to 930 cases. And in the first 6 months of this year, we have 466 such cases. Now, real estate fraud comes in a variety of flavors. Real estate brokers and salespersons are primarily engaged in 3 types of activities: sales of homes or raw land, loans secured by real property, and property management. Each of those activities is vulnerable in its own special way. Now, what I'm about to say, that example of real estate fraud, really only applies to the people who are bad. But, nevertheless, what I'm about to tell you comes from real cases. I'm not making this stuff up. This is really what we see. Now, that said, the majority of the 500,000 licensees are honest and provide fair and competent service. I'm not here to talk about them. It's the dishonest ones looking to take advantage of any opportunity to cheat a vulnerable person and sometimes a desperate victim. Those are the ones that we need to be aware of. In sales transactions, which I'll talk about first, the problems usually arise in purchases by a buyer from a seller. The seller or the seller's agent fails to disclose something typically. For instance, there's mold on the property. It has a leaky roof, and they've just painted over it to make sure it looks good. It has prior flooding. An addition was done without permits, and there's no way for you to know that unless the seller discloses it. And if the seller's agent knows or should have known about that, then the seller's agent needs to disclose it also. We have a case now in which a subdivider who is also a licensed real estate broker was selling his subdivision interests, which were built on a former garbage dump site. And the broker failed to disclose this information to the buyers of the subdivision of these homes. And so later on, when the buyers found out about it, they were really upset. They made complaints. So the broker went in to try to fix the problem. And the reason he said he didn't disclose it was because he repaired the problem. He went back in, tore up some pads, took out the trash, and that was the end of it. Thought he fixed it. Well, the problem is that the value of the homes went down because everybody knows about this now. And that is a problem, and he can be disciplined for that. Now, next, the world of real estate loans. Real estate loans is really the most scary and exciting part of real estate fraud. There's more unbelievable stuff happens in loans than anywhere else. It's a fertile ground. Now, one can become a victim in many ways. A retiree, an older person, with money saved can become what's called a private money lender. You can loan your money. Broker can come to you and say, got a great deal for you. I'll get you a short-term loan, 18%. You'll be paid back within 6 months at 18% interest. It'll be the money will be loaned to someone who's got excellent credit. In fact, he's a CEO of a very ongoing company, and his home's got a ton of equity in it. My first question is, then why is he looking for a loan from you? And so if it sounds too good to be true, it probably is. In fact, this guy, Bob, the borrower, he has very little, if any, income at all. This is the real facts. He either owns no property, or the property he owns is fully encumbered with several loans before you. So when you give up your money to fund the loan, the broker steals it, and if Bob even exists at all, he gets a cut for his participation in the fraud, and you at best end up with a very minor lien on property which has absolutely no equity at all. Now, it seems as though the almost endless variety of mortgage fraud is only limited by the creativity of the evil people who are doing this to folks. Real estate licensees also provide property management services. While all licensees have a fiduciary duty to their principals, and if you understand what that means they're supposed to treat your money like it's their own, only not stealing it like it's their own, treat it and handle it like it's their own. They have a fiduciary duty to principals, but the people who are liars and thieves don't much care about that duty. Within property management, they will steal the security deposits, they'll steal the rent, they will contract for services and then tell you that the services cost extra, or they'll bill you for services that they've never had performed. And in the really bad cases, what they'll do is they will forge a deed, take a loan out on your property, keep the money, and maybe even sell your property and keep the money. And the first thing you know about it is when you get a letter from somebody saying, hey, what's going on with this property, and it's gone. And now you need to go to court and spend money on that. These scenarios happen all the time to people for whatever reasons trust their real estate brokers and salespeople. And that brings me to the issue of affinity fraud, which you probably know about. It's fraud perpetrated on several or many individuals within a closed community, such as a cultural or a common language community, a church group, a family, or even a group of retired folks that know each other and they want to get more from their money. It's especially prevalent within the loan area of real estate transactions. Sometimes the members of the group who are ripped off are so embarrassed about it that they never tell anyone about it. Beginning in the middle of 2008, loan modification fraud became the source of our most numerous and widespread complaints. Have you heard of loan modifications? That's the big deal. Well, the term loan mod is just one of the larger class of services in the foreclosure rescue family for purposes of this discussion. When I say loan mods, I mean also things like short sales. According to the FBI, California is the #1 state in the nation for mortgage fraud. Loan modification fraud is the type of fraud perpetrated on unsophisticated, unsuspecting, and vulnerable California borrowers who are in or on the road to foreclosure, whose loans are upside down, and they are desperate. So when someone comes to them with a plan, no matter how preposterous that plan may sound, they will, and they do, give up their last dollars for the hope that someone might be able to help them. Now, sadly, they're not helped. They almost always lose their homes. In August 2009, 1 in every 144 California households received a foreclosure notice. In the first quarter of 2009, over 135,000 notices of default were recorded in California. And California has 6 metropolitan areas that are in the list of the top 10 foreclosure cities in the United States. The DRE, obviously, for me anyway, has been at the point of the loan modification crisis since its beginning. Whenever there's a loan fraud problem, who do you go to? You look in the phone book and you call real estate. And that's what we do. The problems which are inherent in loan modification crisis fall into 3 general categories. First, inexperience of the service providers. You have people telling you that they're going to do something for you. They have absolutely no expertise in this area. And this extends not only to real estate licensees, but it extends to attorneys and also unlicensed people who say that they've got some special affinity with the lender, that they can really rattle our cage and make things happen. And the answer is they cannot. The next one is we had a lot to do with the state bar at the beginning of 2009, where we actually started to see more and more attorneys involved in loan modification scams, and actually went to the state bar's offices in San Francisco and Los Angeles to teach them what we knew. We had their lawyers and their investigators all in the same room, and we taught them what we knew about loan modification fraud. And it is true and sad that many California attorneys have tried to take advantage of this as an income source, once again having absolutely no particular expertise in the area of loan modifications. Second, behind inexperience is greed. This business has a lot in common with the aluminum siding scams that follow hurricanes and earthquakes. Somebody comes in, they see your vulnerability and your desperation, they make promises to you, they take the money up front, and then they're gone. And that's exactly what happens with this. And the third one is this concept called advance fees, which used to be a really unbelievable problem, and since October 12, 2009, Senate Bill 94 was passed, went into effect, which made it illegal for anyone, even an attorney, which in the past could collect money up front and call it a retainer. But now it's illegal even for an attorney to collect any advance fee in connection with loan modification services. Even though that's true, people still collect advance fees for loan modification services for short sales, and we still get complaints. So, once again, it's the treasure of the Sierra Madre. You don't need a license to steal. There's a new scheme also which is beginning to grow and gain some steam in California. It's called forensic loan audits. Someone will come and promise you that now that your loan is upside down and you're desperate, what they'll do is ask you to gather up your loan documents, get them all together. I'm going to look at your loan documents. Now, you need to pay me a fee, anywhere from $1,000, $3,000, maybe even $5,000 for this. But I'm going to look at your loan documents, and I'm going to determine whether or not your lender followed all the rules, crossed all the T's and dotted all the I's in putting together your loan. And if your lender did not, then I am going to basically force your lender to give you better terms. That's the new scam. But the problem is that this requires money, and at this point in your particular situation, if you're one of these victims, you don't have that money. The other part of the problem is that even if the report comes out and you get your $3,000 report, you can then negotiate with your lender for better terms. And if the lender says no, what do? You have to sue the lender. That's your only other option. And if you think about it, unless this forensic loan audit, which is a documentary report, it ultimately gets you a successful and sustainable loan modification, meaning that you will be able to continue making those particular modified payments. Unless it results in a successful and sustainable loan mod, it is absolutely worthless. And folks who think about this think, well, I'm going to put this money out on the trail to getting a better deal and having my problem solved, and it doesn't go that way. It only gets worse, because now you've given away the last money you had. Now, you've probably heard about the subprime loan disaster. In that day, when subprime loans were in their heyday, lenders were making what's called income-stated loans. And income-stated loans means that on your loan application, you stated what your income was and what your employment was. So, if you were a janitor making $1,000 a month, you could state that you were a CEO of Microsoft and you were making $1 million a month, and no one at the lender would verify that employment or income. Why would they do something like that? Because every loan they made generated a fee, and they were into generating fees. Didn't really seem to matter that the people who were borrowing the money were not going to be able to make the payments on the loans because the prices were going up, home values were going up, interest rates were low, money was available. And then what happened is we had this turn in the market, and the prices started going down. The borrowers are saying, hey, wait a minute, I can't make the payments. And even with the brokers and salespeople were doing the same, you know what, I got a great deal for you. You can buy 10 of these homes on an income-stated basis, and then what we do is we rent the homes out, the rent will pay for the property, for the loans, and then when they appreciate value, we sell them and we all make money. That's not what happened, and that resulted in the foreclosure crisis that we see right now. Some of the people who were arranging the income-stated loans to generate fees for themselves are the same people who are now selling whatever loan products and services they can sell, not to help you or to help anyone except themselves, by preying on trusting and unsophisticated borrowers, many of whom are seniors. That is why, even though reverse mortgages may seem to be a very good idea, and I didn't know anything about reverse mortgages when I got the call to do this. So I got in there and I really did some studying and I found out about reverse mortgages. And I think they're pretty cool in the right circumstances. You're 62 and over, all the borrowers in the home are 62 and over, and then all the other eligibility and rules flow from that. But it seems like a very good idea in the right circumstances. But even though they seem like a good idea, you must be very careful to do several things before committing yourself to any financial transaction, especially involving real estate. Because once you start signing on the dotted line, you can be in big trouble. And once you give your money away, it's gone. What you can do is, number one, don't be in a hurry to make a decision. And never allow anyone to push you or talk you into a decision for any reason. The second thing to do is, and this is exactly what I've done when I got the call to do this. I know nothing about reverse mortgages. What do? I got on Google, I typed reverse mortgage, and the next thing I know, I was in another world. And I got to read all kinds of cool things about reverse mortgages. Most of that stuff came from the AARP website. There's another one called NRMLA, which is National Reverse Mortgage Lenders Association, and HUD is the organization, the government organization, which guarantees certain reverse mortgage loans, and it is the most widely used program in the country. Apparently 95% of all reverse mortgages are these HUD mortgages. They're called, I think they're called HECM, Home Equity Conversion Mortgages. And their websites, AARP, NMRLA, and Department of Real Estate, and the Department of Corporations is another good one, contain a lot of information to get educated on these products and services before you start signing and opening up your wallet. The next thing to do is to confide in a trusted friend or relative, or if you have a CPA or a lawyer that you trust, then you should confide in that person about the particular transaction you're undertaking. Don't give up personal information or sign anything without first talking to this trusted friend. And never give anybody any money in advance of what it is they're supposed to do. Now, I know there may be exceptions to that rule, but as a general rule, do not give your money up before you get the services. And let's see, I did mention the HECM, that's the FHA program. If anyone is considering a reverse mortgage, they'd be crazy not to look at that first. And one of the requirements of getting a reverse mortgage is you must meet with an independent counselor who is supposed to tell you all about the reverse mortgage, and tell you what the other options may be that you have, and do this as an independent person, not trying to sell you something, and that's an excellent thing. So for any type of real estate loan, do not rely on testimonials, people claiming to have 1% huge principal reductions. I've been hearing this on the radio about loan mods. They got me a 1% loan. I'm thinking, first of all, your credit stinks or you wouldn't be in this position to begin with. How you get a 1% loan for how long? And they won't tell you that part. And also, many times, even on TV, when the people are talking about products that they're selling, they're getting paid to talk about those products, and they don't tell you that either. Many of those engaged in real estate loan fraud are unlicensed people, and they are not interested in our best interest. Some masquerade as nonprofits. Many confuse the public by claiming to be affiliated with HUD or some other government agency. They have impressive sounding names, and they send these kind of green postcards that when you look at them, they'll say, you must respond now, you're going to miss out on this government program, government has money for you. All of that stuff is just a lead to bring you in and make it look official, and it's really not. And many of the people who are doing these scams are real estate licensees and attorneys. Yeah. So, unless you have a trusted friend or one who will provide this service for free, everyone engaged in the business of helping you with your financial affairs is doing it for the money. Their money, not your money. They do a volume business. Now, remember Smokey Bear? Only you can prevent forest fires. I thought about that, and except for lightning strikes, I think he's probably right. The same applies to real estate fraud, especially in lending and borrowing. It's really true that only you can prevent being ripped off. If you do not prevent it, people like me and other government agencies can only come later and try to minimize the damage to other people. Your money's already gone. The damage has been done. There's little or no chance that you're ever going to get your money back. Your best safeguard is not giving up your personal information or your money to begin with. Now, I hope you never need to know this information, but I'm really excited to tell you about this. The Department of Real Estate administers a victims fund, and it has since 1964. It's known as the Recovery Account. Have you ever heard of it? No. Not surprised. It is funded by 100%. It is funded 100% by license fees of real estate brokers and salespeople. They take about 12% of their license fees and fund this thing. It's not meant to be an insurance fund or to make every case of incompetency or dishonesty right. The principal requirements for payment that you have to be intentionally defrauded by someone who had a real estate license at the time and was acting in a capacity that required a real estate license. In other words, if a guy with a real estate license goes into Long's Drugs and steals something, he's not using his real estate license. Get it? Beyond that, you have to obtain a final civil judgment or a criminal restitution order from a criminal case, and you have to make some reasonable effort to try to collect on the judgment. But if you can't, the limits of liability are we could pay up to $50,000 for one transaction. And if you had multiple transactions, for instance, if you had a bunch of money and made several different loans to people arranged by a real estate licensee and they were all fraudulent, we could pay up to $250,000 against that one licensee. Now, this fund has existed since 1964, and while all rules are technical, and so are these, the staff in the recovery account, which is located only in Sacramento, and it's 3 people, and I'm in charge of that group also, will do everything that we can to help you understand the rules and apply them to your facts. And now, historically, slightly more than 50% of all applicants who have ever applied for payment from the recovery account have been paid. For a running total to date of more than, take a guess, $38 million. And a normal year will pay $2 million from the recovery account. Now finally, I want to share one more fact with you that you're probably not aware of about the good work done by the Department of Real Estate and its employees. The work that we do to combat real estate fraud, to keep the 500,000 licensee population competent and honest with our 300 staff, and to press our law enforcement partners to go beyond where DRE can go and impose criminal fines and jail sentences in real estate fraud cases cost California taxpayers, and I'm one of them, absolutely nothing. All of the services provided by the Department of Real Estate are funded by the license fees paid by real estate brokers, salespeople, and the fees paid by the subdividers for their public reports. So, I hope that I've been able to increase your awareness of the vulnerability you and I may have in real estate-related transactions, especially seniors, of which I am now one also, and to the effects the department is making to fulfill its primary reason for existence, which is working to protect you in those types of transactions. So thank you for your attention, and if you have any questions, I'll be happy to answer them.
Thank you, John. Just one question. If somebody does have a concern and they want to speak to the Department of Real Estate, what number should they call?
They can call, well, the best way to do it is if they have internet access, they can go online, and the DRE website is www.dre.ca.gov. All of the contact information is there. There's enforcement contact, there's licensing contact, there's legal, there's audits, so there are a bunch of different contact numbers. I'm always happy to help people and steer them where they need to go, and I'll make sure that they get where they need to go, and my personal number at work is 916-227-0787, and I'm the Assistant Chief Counsel for the Department of Real Estate in Sacramento.
John, thank you very, very much. We really appreciate it. It was very, very informative. For the commissioners, are there any other questions for John? Anyone?
I must have covered everything perfectly.
Well, we're just in awe of the presentation you've given us. Thank you so much, John. It was very, very informative. Thank you.